Good morning, everybody. This is Carolina Boys Sports Podcast coming to you live. I want to get into a little bit of discussion today as we get closer to the 2021-2022 season. I think we only got, probably 4 or 5 weeks left, or 3 at that. So I've seen where Oklahoma and Texas finally accepted the invite for July 2025 to join and be a part of the SEC Southeastern Conference. So that gives it a little more interesting for the conference, I guess, to add another, I'm going to say, somewhat good schools to the roster. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out, because with the teams leaving their conference, with the Big Ten, Pac-12, ACC, if the Big Ten and the ACC teams decide to switch over to the Southeastern Conference, I'm interested in seeing, like I've stated in my previous episodes, how it would turn out. And they're also talking about the 12-team expansion to make it a little bit more interesting as well. That'll give... I can see that kind of being in trouble and give a little bit more teams, an edge to strive to make it to the playoffs, to try to do something, but it's going to be a lot more confusing, probably. Some may get it in the near future, of how they can all clash and come together, because that'll just put each team to trying to be the best that they can be. Because you got the top teams, you got Alabama, you got Georgia, you got Florida, you got, Missouri and Auburn. I'm just putting those for the Southeastern Conference side. That's good. Then you got, if you put everybody together, you got Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, Penn State, if they're good, Oregon, if they're good, Cincinnati, if they're good, just the top schools that are good. So it'll be a real challenge and a battle for each team every year to go to the playoffs, if they do progress and agree to have the 12-team expansion playoffs. Because we all know Alabama will be there. Alabama's the best school in that conference, out of Georgia and Auburn and all that. And Florida, Florida always tries to show that they can be there. Carolina can't. I don't think Carolina will ever reboot. I mean, who knows? It'll be a start of a new season. They might show off everybody and shock everybody and actually go to the playoffs or national championship. Same thing with Georgia. I think Georgia's got a good team this year. And so does Auburn. They might be able to go back to the playoffs. It's just depending on how throughout the season Georgia goes and all that. If Georgia can go out all the way, beat Auburn, Florida, South Carolina. I think we got Georgia Tech on our schedule too. And if Missouri and Tennessee, if Georgia can beat those main schools that they need to beat in Kentucky, Georgia will go to the playoff or to the SEC championship. And then who will be there waiting, most likely, is Big Brother Alabama. That's the issue with Georgia the past seasons. Every time Georgia faces Alabama, Georgia could be winning, and then Alabama will just come back out of nowhere and start pounding. It's like the big brother versus little brother, You ain't going to beat me because I'm bigger than you, We all know Alabama's a dynamic school. They got top 5-star quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, you name it, they got it. One goes down, another better one steps up. But they have a lot of issues, not a lot of issues, but they have a lot of shoes to fill, with Devontae Smith leaving, Waddle leaving, Najee Harris leaving, Mac Jones leaving to go to the pros. It's going to be a challenge, but I know Alabama's got it. Alabama, they can reload. They're stacked. Same thing with Georgia. Georgia's a dynamic team as well. So is Auburn. They're both dynamic. As the little brothers from Alabama. Georgia got a lot of shoes to fill with offensive side and defensive side. You know, they still got Zamar White, Milton, Kyrus Jackson, with Pickens being out for a couple of weeks or until probably midseason, that's a real blow to Georgia because he's dynamic. But, they got talent that needs to step up and do stuff. And if they give them the opportunity, I'm pretty sure they can do it. As we get closer to the season, and our first challenge, or the first challenge for Georgia is definitely going to be Clemson, to see if Clemson can handle Georgia's defense or Georgia handles Clemson defense, It'll be interesting to see how it goes. And I'm going to get into another topic that I've just seen yesterday that I've read, Correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm not wrong. But I seen Clemson's sophomore cornerback get arrested for reckless driving and serious injury to a mail carrier. I'm not copywriting. This is what I was heard, And I'm a little confused when they said internal disciplinary actions are going to be handed down. But yet, when Kendricks, which is the one Georgia took from Clemson, got arrested for a possession of a weapon charge, it was all hands on deck, off the field, off the team. But doing 115 miles an hour and a 55 mile zone, and you get just the internal disciplinary actions, it kind of, it's going to throw some shade in there, like, why did I get kicked off the team for that, which is a gun, serious charge, but reckless driving with a serious injury, that's even worse charge. Who knows, he might get dismissed from the team, who knows, he might not, but there was talk that he was going to be eligible to play against Georgia. I mean, and if he does, that'll give Kendricks a little bit more motivation to play, to kind of be upset or mad, I guess you could say, but have more fuel to the fire to show off against his former team. And they also, if he gets kicked off, go to Georgia because Georgia accepts troubled players. Granted, Georgia had some players get in trouble before, But Georgia's school is not all about trouble. Same thing for Alabama. It would happen the same if it would have happened to Alabama. Sorry for the stuttering. Disciplinary needs to be disciplinary, and actually get taken care of, but who knows what can happen. Like I said, I'm interested to see how it goes throughout the 2021-2022 season, to if we're going to have a lot of shockings with different teams this year, or if it's going to go usually back how it is anyway, to the normal teams going back to the playoffs. What we had that one year where LSU shocked everybody and went all the way. They beat Georgia in the SEC, turned around, smoked Clemson in the championship, or the Natty, because Georgia nor Alabama went that year. So it'll be a shocker to see. Can LSU bounce back with the loss that they lost? Probably. Auburn, nah. If it's anything like 2018, I'm pretty sure Georgia, if Georgia can do it, and if Auburn can do it, it'll be a battle again. Like, Georgia goes to Alabama, Auburn loses to Auburn, then they get a reshot for the championship, the SEC championship, and Georgia smokes them. And then goes to play Oklahoma. And they beats Oklahoma in overtime, but loses the big brother again in Alabama, or at Atlanta for the national championship. I was looking at the stats yesterday too. JT Daniels' stats was, I think he had 1,237 yards. Yeah, 1,231 yards. 10 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. And he had about 80% completion rate with 119 attempts. and he averaged like 10.3 yards, or not 10.3 yards, but that was his average. Then you got DJ from Clemson. I can't pronounce his last name. He had like 915 yards, like 5 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. So, it's stats is stats. It'll be a new year. So I'm interested to see, because it's all talk, if what the stats that JT Daniels had last year can show out, which he's been better getting with the wide receiver group and the running backs. During all season, they were out practicing, and trying to build chemistry together. And you got, newcomers coming in. You got the LSU transfer, Gilbert, coming in. So that'll add more fuel to the fire, or more fuel for the team, because they'll have players that are experienced if they can just get it done. And like Clemson, Clemson's got talent, like I said, so it's going to be a good battle to start off the season, because they got Alabama versus Miami, which we all know Alabama's going to kill Miami unless Miami can pop something out of their playbook and win. But I predict the scores as we get closer. I'm going to predict Alabama beating Miami for like 53-13. And Georgia and Clemson, I'd say Georgia's like 35 and Clemson's 24, or 42 to, I'm going to say 42 to 30, what it could possibly be. Never knows. Or somebody just might get blown out. You never know. Y'all can leave a link in the bio or voice to what you want to hear more of, or get into a little bit more discussion of how we think each quarterback is going to perform throughout the season. And I will talk more into that as the season gets closer and everybody starts actually playing. Let's see how well the quarterback's doing. Because Georgia's got, if JT Daniels goes down, Carson Beck's going to step up. I know, because he can throw. He's good. You got Bennett. That'll come in. But he can throw. He's good. His nickname was Mailman last year, but his accuracy against throwing over taller players than him was the issue. So I'm interested in seeing, like I said, how each player performs throughout the season. And I'm going to end it on that note, and I'll be back later on to talk more. This is Carolina Boys, a.k.a. C-Dog, and then Alive.